I gave you my heart.
Hi empaths, welcome back to my healing space and back to my empath empowerment series. I have a different lighting going on right now because I was hearing buzzing and I had a comment around the buzzing that comes into the videos sometimes in the background, and I narrowed it down to, I think, the overhead fluorescent lighting. So I changed that up. So hopefully the buzzing won't show up in this video, and because I feel like the message is really important. And hopefully the lighting isn't that bad, right? Give and take. And funny enough, that is exactly what we'll be addressing in this video, right? You probably know from the title, that's why you clicked. I've come up with 11 ways to strengthen your boundaries, learn to self-actualize. Not quite sure what I've called the video yet, but it's 11 steps. This process. And it's addressing a question that came in from an Instagram post that I created. And if you're following me on Instagram, urban_empath, you might have seen this post and had this question yourself, or maybe this is answering your question. It was about stopping the cycle of self-sacrifice as an empath and learning to care for yourself, to self-actualize, learning stronger boundaries. And the questions that came in are, how do I stop self-sacrificing? How do I end the cycle of people-pleasing? How do I create really solid boundaries, say no and mean no, right? And how do I recognize what energy is mine and what is another's? That's a key one for empaths, right? How do I shield my energy? How do I protect myself? So I wanted to come up with practical steps to answer this question. I didn't want to just write a paragraph. I thought this was worth investing my time and energy into creating a really solid, practical approach to getting to the core of this issue, okay? So you might want to follow all these steps. You might want to tune in and see which ones are most useful for you and integrate those, right? That's part of learning boundaries and self-actualizing, is knowing what's for you and what isn't. Chances are you already have a sense of that in some area. So we're just building on that, right? You're not really starting from scratch. You already do have some skill here. So let's not discount that. So let's get into these 11 steps. Step 1 is attuning to yourself and creating stronger energetic boundaries. Empaths often have very porous boundaries, and this is where this exchange of energy happens. And then we tend to absorb it and not be able to release. So how do we strengthen these energetic boundaries? There is a family constellation exercise that I use with most of my clients, and it involves creating a sacred circle. I use yarn to create mine. I had a session with my family constellation facilitator and one of my family constellation facilitators, and this is an exercise we did. This helps with this tendency to come out of yourself, right? And create these boundaries. Because in part it is subconscious, and the subconscious speaks in images. So we create a new image. That's part of the family constellation work, is creating a new image for the subconscious. And when we have these porous boundaries, it often shows up as this blurry sense of self, right? So how do we strengthen that? Part of it will be creating a circle. You can use a nice big long piece of thick knitting yarn, right? As long as there's no holes, right? We don't want to create another porous boundary and anchor that in further. So it's going to be a solid circle filled in, so you can use whatever you have. You don't have to go out and buy anything new. If you have crystals, you want to make sure it creates, and you can use your crystals, but make sure it creates a solid circle with no holes, no gaps. You can use paper. Some people have used extension cords in a pinch when we got on the phone, right? as long as they're long enough, right? You want a nice big spacious circle. What you're going to do is you're going to make a rule that only your energy is allowed in this circle, whatever that means, right? That's just the rule we're going to create. And we're going to get into the circle and then notice what falls off, what melts away, what goes down to Mother Earth to be recycled, right? Because some of it's just outdated, outmoded. Allow it to fall away to be recycled. Some we're holding on to, and as we align in this circle, it'll go out the back of the chakras, right? Oftentimes we're really engaged here and we forget about the back, and the back is about self-care, relationship to self. So you might find those start opening up and stuff comes out and releases that way. Stuff goes out of the circle going back to ancestors, stuff we've taken on from them, friends, acquaintances, people hooking into our energy, whatever it is. We might find that that's removed. Then we might also find that it's unburdened. Just noticing a higher power might take it from us, right? What are we trying to hold on to and control that's not our job, right? All of this stuff released, just noticing it. And then visualizing that this is, this boundary is also coming up off the ground, right? Encircling our entire energy field. It won't be perfect, right? Because we can certainly fill up a huge space with our light, and that's the point. We're going to then fill up this circle, right? So we're going to visualize, we're going to see the boundary there, then we're going to visualize it coming off the ground and creating a force field around us, right after we've unburdened, and then fill up that space with our light. Sometimes we have this tendency to constrict, and that draws things further in to us. So, and training the energy field to expand in this circle, and then tuning into what's ours, just attuning to ourselves, our energy. When I did this exercise for the first time, I felt a huge release, a huge relief as things fell off, pressure to hold things and carry things, right? And then also I tuned into myself and I noticed this core of light. And when I tuned into it, it was this core of inner peace. It was inner peace. And I realized it enlightened me to part of my contribution is to bring peace, right? I'm bringing peace here. I'm anchoring it down. I also saw this big heart. I felt this big heart full of love for people, right? And sometimes that's easy to get out of touch with when we're resentful. I also felt these bubbles of joy coming off of me, and laughter and comedy, and that's part of my contribution too. So getting in tune with yourself helps you understand that what you are is just as valid as what you're doing, maybe more so, right? So having this sense of purpose and identity, tuning into that, and then also your essence, your needs, your values, beliefs, core wounds, right? Just really tuning into yourself. Another thing that takes us out of this is overstimulation. So you might want to do something that resensitizes, right? Through sensory deprivation. I have a mindfold that I sometimes use, right? In this, you put it on and there's little holes where your eyes go, so you can open your eyes and still be in the dark. And earplugs, right? For those sensitive to noise. And then solitude, right? Solitude, because it won't be perfect if you're, as a clairsentient, right? As an energy sensitive, it won't be perfect, but you want to block out as much stimuli as you can to sort of resensitize and get back in touch and in tune with your system. So that's step one. Step two, understand your self-abandonment triggers. What takes you out? Know your wounds, your bad habits, because some of these are just bad habits, right? Dissociating from the body and its needs, enmeshing with others, seeking unhealthy connection through addictive patterning, through toxic substances, right? What are these patterns? Really understanding. and maybe tracing the pattern of this, right, back to the moment it initiates. What is the trigger? What creates this response? Or what are you blocking and covering up? And when was the first time you experienced this pattern? Right, these self-abandonment triggers. One for me, and a very normal one in the modern age, is like getting into a hypnotic trance with electronics, right? Watching videos, scrolling, endless scrolling, doing online work, watching video after video, television show, binge watching, right? Have you ever been so entrained and hypnotized by a television show or something you were doing online or scrolling, and then all of a sudden you realized you had to go to the bathroom really bad, right? You were kind of out of your body, not in touch with your needs. Or that you were starving, you were so hungry, you had ignored it, right, for a long time because you sort of came out of yourself and were engrossed in this other thing. So that's one way we can abandon ourselves. We might also constantly be asking the question, what do the people around us need, right? And really enmeshing with their energies. We might want to ask, where did we learn this? Where was the first time we saw this modeled? It's probably something that we didn't originate. It probably didn't start with us. It's probably something we inherited, right? Or it was modeled to us by caregivers, so we took on this patterning. So who are we unconsciously loving, right? Covertly loving through this pattern? Where did it start? Also, is there a memory that comes that created this story and this pattern, right? Chances are it's a childhood memory, right? So really getting in touch with that. So having this exploration of where does the trigger initiate? What's the first sign of it, right? What's that first sign? And then that's where we'll start with the healing process. And then step 3 is change the memory. Change the memory, right? Meditate, go back in time and change that memory, right? If it was initiated with a memory or a story, change that in meditation or creative visualization, or go back and heal the core issue or trauma by reparenting the inner child, showing the inner child some love, right? And forming a relationship and a bond there. By doing some kind of therapy that integrates fragmented parts, right? Family constellation, internal family systems, model of healing, anything that really gets us in touch with that wounded inner child and helps that inner child feel seen, feel heard, right? Any kind of inner child meditation. It helps to be guided, right? Hypnotherapy. Acknowledging, seeing, hearing that inner child, and really getting in touch with the needs are there. Because this is the part of us that we've deemed unacceptable or not important enough to have these needs. And that was conditioned in by a caregiver, right? Giving us the message that if we have needs, we won't be loved, right? By taking love away, we had this perception that anytime we had a need, love was taken away, or we were a burden. We got pushing energy, whatever that might have been. And as a sensitive child, that can create trauma. It puts us in survival mode, right? As a child, our life depends on the love of adults. So this creates, this puts us in survival mode, right? And this is where the people-pleasing behavior initiates. So we got to reparent that inner child and start building some trust, because we've been abandoning them in the stead of the caregiver who did so initially. So step 4, after we have created a safe space for the inner child, and we've repaired the relationship with ourselves. That's where it has to start, right? We can't see connection outside of us if we have inner separation, right? We'll continue to create that outside of ourselves. So how can we feel good being connected to others? We can prepare and rehearse new responses, right? Empaths are great artists, so we can use those artistic skills to create a new paradigm for ourselves through preparation. What do you do as an artist? Do you just go on stage and wing it? Probably not. Probably there's a great chance that you are rehearsing, right? You have a script, you've blocking, right? Even if you're doing improv, and life is improv, isn't it? There's still structure, right? There's still improv games. There's structure created that we work within. So how can you prepare a new response to the things that were once, because now it's just a bad habit maybe. Even when you heal the wound, you might fall into the same behavior just out of habit, right? Because the neural pathway has been developed. So create a new response. That might be rehearsing an elegant way of saying no, or turning down an invitation, or asking for help, right? Or asking for space, right? That's big for an empath. When we feel overstimulated, asking for connection and love, just asking for help in general, right? Because chances are there's part of us that feels like we're a burden when we do so, which is why we overgive. So rehearsing this and noticing when we start implementing this, the response of others when they have the opportunity to help, right? Isn't that why we're conditioned to help? It feels good when we're in the act of it. It's kind of the aftermath of being used up that's the problem. So giving people the opportunity to help you, and also in your circle, right? Once you've created your circle, and training your energy field to, instead of constrict, when you start to feel like someone's coming into your space, shining your light out. Why? Because the reason it's able to come closer, the energies are able to come closer, is because we're constricting, right? So we entrain ourselves to expand the energy field with our light, right? We use our mind to expand the energy field in our circle. We're conditioning ourselves. And as soon as we notice we're constricting, we expand, right? Counterintuitive, because we kind of want to be invisible in those moments. But when we expand, we're able to transmute other energies in our light and not betray ourselves, right? So learning to do so, radiating instead of shrinking, so that we can say no gracefully, with the outlook that others want to help too, right? It feels great when I help. I know others want to help me too. And getting in touch with our needs and our preferences of how those needs are fulfilled will help us ask other people for their help. And that gives them a sense of contribution too. Step number 5, expect opportunities to practice this, right? Expect the opportunities to come. Shifting your shoulds and shouldn'ts to a more rational expectation, right? What creates suffering is the belief that things should be another way or should have been another way. That creates suffering. So part of you believes you shouldn't have needs, right? Part of you believes people shouldn't ask you for favors when you're used up, right? Or people should say yes because you feel obligated to say yes, right? So there's all these shoulds, and we're going to practice shifting our mindset and also honoring our own needs. So this is going to take practice. Once you're in tune with what those needs are, right, through working your sacred circle, through tuning into your inner child, you're going to ask the inner child in that work, what is going to nourish them? I'll just use the plural pronoun. What's going to nourish your inner child, right? What activities? What can you do? What makes them feel good, right? And then choosing to consistently do those activities or consume those foods or, drink those healthy beverages, whatever it is, whatever comes in for you, right? You're going to commit to doing those and schedule them in at least once a week, right? So give yourself consistency in filling up your own cup. Oftentimes we'll do really low quality activities to kind of fill the void, but it's not really nourishing to us. It's not truly fulfilling. So we're running on empty. We're doing just enough to get by. But there are some activities that just light you up, that spark you, that fulfill you long term, right? That are good investment of your time, attention, energy, resources. And we got to choose those consciously. So being in tune with the inner child and asking what those might be for you, and then begin following through for yourself. Then you might notice that you're overflowing, right? And you're no longer giving from a deficit. You're giving from an overflowing place, so you don't have to keep tabs, right? You're not bartering anymore. You're truly in a giving state, a generous state, because you filled yourself up. That's what's required here, right? This is what the core issue is. There's no filling up of your own cup. So we're committing to doing that, so we can give from that overflow with no expectation of return, and then noticing what relationships are out of balance and begin setting boundaries around those relationships, right? Or begin asking to receive. Step number 6, expand your state of resourcefulness and sense of gratitude. Resourcefulness nourishes your sense of contribution to the world, which is a need of your soul, right? And then gratitude entrains you to receptivity. So working with these states balances the give and take in relationships. And that's what we're doing, right? So how do we work on resourcefulness? You're going to, in your sacred circle, right? Or just jotting it down, writing it down, taking stock of those resources you have in your life, those experiences you had. A great place to start, your family system, right? Family or systemic constellation. Your family is a huge resource. We're getting our life force from our ancestors, right? So sometimes we can feel isolated, that it's all coming from us and that we're all alone and we have to give and give and give, and we're forgetting this whole family system behind us. Sometimes that alone can improve the quality of energy that's flowing through and provide for us there, taking our proper place in the family system as well. Sometimes when this enmeshment happens, or this inability to sort of flow, we have made the unconscious agreement to carry the emotions of the family or to caregive for a parent from an early age, right? This is an agreement we made because we came into the family and saw this gap and we decided we could fill it. This beautiful, innocent child came into this family thinking, I can carry all the pain. I can carry the wounds. I can carry the emotions, and I can care for the emotions and needs of my parents. And it's too heavy. It doesn't work. So if in your mind's eye you tune in to your family, particularly your caregivers, parents, most likely, where do they fall in your mind's eye? If a parent's in front of you, right, and you're facing them, do you have a sense that you're turned away from the future, facing a parent to make sure they're okay, so that you can, so that you're okay, right? They have to be okay first before I can be okay, right? That's out of order. So taking your place means seeing your parents behind you, mother on the left, father on the right, right? Even if they're just an idea and even if they're no longer alive, right? We're working with their energies, and we can use things to represent them and tune into that. And they're our resources along with our ancestors. And then if we don't have a sense that they're capable of providing that for us, we can also put in resources for them. And that's family constellation work. So if you ever want to do that work in depth, that's my passion. So we can have a session together, reach out to me for that. That'll all be in the description, by the way. So that's one place where you can start. Also, you can put in all your classes. You've taken all your trainings, right? Your education, your skills, your talents, your experiences, your life experiences, the places you've been, right? Your country of origin, right? Your family's history. These can all be resources and help you feel more resourceful. Mentors, friends, right? Chosen family. We can buff up our feeling of resourcefulness by seeing that we're connected. And all those things that we've been through, experienced, learned, the wisdom that we've attained through life, we can see that as something we can contribute, right? That we're bringing in. So we start having this sense of contribution. And if it's this sense that I don't have enough vitality, right? We can put in a representative of vitality into the circle too. So it's this unconscious work, right? We're working with the unconscious. And then having a gratitude practice, right? A gratitude journal every night, listing 3 things you're grateful for, right? Or just making a conscious effort to say thank you, to thanking a higher power, thanking yourself for following through, right? Thanking others, right? Finding a way to receive gracefully and to get yourself into a state of gratitude is a state of receiving. So if you want more, right? If what you're looking for is more, focusing on the lack isn't helping, right? Coming out of yourself to take is actually pushing energy. So gratitude puts us in a state of allowing and receiving. So we balance this give and take, this sense of contribution and this sense of receiving with this practice, exercise in resourcefulness, right? By taking stock of what we have, what we've gone through, what we've attained, what we're contributing through that, and the life force flowing through from the family system. And then also a gratitude practice to help us receive, right? So taking stock of those things we're good at, right? Are you a great mother? What do you take pride in, right? What are you already doing right? So making a concerted effort to really do this inner work, even when it's hard, right? Even when it's a challenge, build the muscle. Step number 6, we strengthen the energetic filters, right? So we have our boundary, we have solid sense of self, we're in touch with the wounded inner child, right? And we're taking better care, we're reparenting, we're in touch with our needs in this state of give and take, right? This flow. And now we want to strengthen energetic filters and expand our awareness, right? This is how we'll be able to filter out certain energies and be more discerning about what we let in. So how do we do that? We got to integrate our shadow, because that's how things are coming in, right? Things are coming in through the back door, through our shadow aspects. These are light and dark qualities, right? When we come out of ourselves and when we want to merge with another, it's because we notice aspects of them that we put on a pedestal because we haven't owned them in ourselves, right? Or when we don't acknowledge something because we think it's unacceptable, or however we define it, right? We disown it in ourselves. That's where it has the capacity to enter. So how do we close that gap, and how do we integrate? Working with archetypes, role models, mentors, crystals, essential oils, flower essences, right? Whatever you resonate with, animal totems, whatever it is you resonate with, any kind of vibrational therapy, right? Where you're attuning and tuning into energies and archetypes, right? It's really about the archetype. So you might want to choose random archetypes to work with, or intentionally attune to those that will support you in an area that you'd like to see some growth in. For me, I'm currently doing a tarot journey, right? On this channel, working with the archetypes of each card to really integrate. There are masculine cards and there are feminine cards, right? There are more royal cards and more sort of peasant cards, right? So it's like all kinds of experiences, bad luck, good luck, however we want to see it. We're working with all of these energies, and then what you'll be looking for is, does the experience of this energy and archetype show up within me or outside of me, right? We're learning this, we're learning to integrate. And if you're unsure and uncertain whether an aspect is a light attribute or a shadow attribute that you haven't fully integrated, is whether or not it's happening internally and how it's showing up externally, right? So this will help strengthen the filters, this ability to discern, really doing this conscious work. And it's just really by setting this intention to do the work, right? And just have the experience. It's really powerful. Also in the intuitive sessions, right? The timeless readings is what I've called them. They're really intuitive sessions where I use cards as archetypes. This helps you discern as well, because it helps you understand what's true for you and what isn't, right? Hopefully you wouldn't listen to a reading or an intuitive session and follow blindly, particularly if it's general, right? Or at any time. Never let someone else's intuition override your own. So in those sessions, I do use archetype cards, right? Where we tune in to different archetypes, see what aspect of self wants to take the spotlight and be further integrated or show us something outside of us, right? So those sessions I'm trying to provide a lot of free resources here, right? In different packages that speak to you, right? So you're already discerning what's for you and what isn't. On this channel, I have the intuitive readings, the tarot journey, which is working with archetypes, one per week. We're really seeing how it shows up for us. And this is the self-actualization process, right? And also these informational videos, right? Really helping us self-actualize and empower ourselves as empaths with information, discerning what's true for us, right? And what are blind spots where maybe it doesn't really resonate, but maybe that's just because it's really, really a shadow right now, right? It's in our shadow right now. So that's a tool. Find people who have achieved a certain level of mastery over setting boundaries or creating an amazing life, or who receive so elegantly that it's mesmerizing to you, right? It's just this stunning ability. And work with them in a mentorship program, right? Like a session with me, or find a mentor, right, that you want to work with. That can be helpful. Or look to someone you admire in a specific area and consciously study how they do what they do, right? Tune in to the archetype they represent, and you may find that you begin owning these traits in yourself. It's really an incredible process. And if you think that that's kind of far-fetched, think about how when women sort of are attuned to each other, and it's not even conscious, they might not even enjoy each other, but they start synchronizing, their cycles synchronize, right? It's unconscious. So it's really this unconscious energetic exchange that we have. So do so intentionally to create these experiences for yourself and create these filters. Find people that are modeling this, role models outside of you, right? I always talk about my Aunt Liz has an amazing ability to receive. She is the most elegant, gracious, enthusiastic receiver I've ever known. It makes you feel like you've been given a gift every time you give her something, because she's just so enthusiastic and grateful. Is there someone you can look up to and watch their process and how they do what they do around boundaries? Is there someone that you respect, right? You have so much respect for. Well, what is it about them that makes you respect them so much and honor their boundaries, right? What is it about them? Can you integrate more of that? So that might be how you work with that. Also, notice if this is a covert connection, right? Like we talked about in a previous step, this might be something you're doing to create a similar experience to an ancestor so that they don't suffer alone, right? So it might be an unconscious way of connecting, of showing love, right? For example, if we can't outwardly show love to a parent, right, or another relative or close family member, if we can't outwardly because it's wrong, or it would be out of allegiance with mother, say, right? If showing love to father would be out of allegiance with mother because he was bad to her, or whatever it is, how may we be covertly connecting through some of these patterns? So really look at that, right? And how can we consciously connect instead? Might be creating an addictive cycle there. So just becoming more conscious. Chances are this cycle didn't start with you. Number 8 is a simple one, but it can be very impactful. Update your metaphor for life, right? Tune into what is your current metaphor for life. I know that sounds kind of strange, maybe if you've never thought about it, but there are some people that go around saying life sucks and then you die. What do you think you're creating when you do that, right? What kind of life are you creating with that? It creates a lens through which you see your experience here. If you want to have more fun in life, can you consciously tune into the metaphor of life is a ball? Life is a ball, and then see it through that lens, and then you're constantly looking for opportunities to have fun and celebrate. Or if you want to receive more, right? If you want to get into a state of gratitude and receive more, life is a gift. Life is a gift. Do you feel how it shifts your state, right? And it will shift the lens of how you see the world and how you see experiences that are coming in. Or life is an adventure, right? If you want to see these problems that are coming in as positive challenges, right? That you can forge through with your inner strength. Maybe summoning that inner strength by seeing it as a challenge, an adventure, right? Life is an adventure. What is a useful metaphor for you, right? What kind of experience do you want to create here with this time on earth? Create a really meaningful metaphor and then display it somewhere, post it everywhere, right? Or create a vision board that really exemplifies that and always have it somewhere that's in plain sight. Or use your Instagram or even something like Pinterest to create a board, right? A vision board, a virtual vision board, right? To anchor in this metaphor with images and quotes. Journal about it. Paint a picture, right? Get it out of you. Sing songs that carry this message. So really anchoring in this metaphor and allowing yourself to see the world through this lens, it can make a huge impact. Step number 9, accept other people's no's, right? Accept other people's boundaries, honor their boundaries, and see rejection as a redirection, right? As opposed to an attack on your self-image or worthiness. This is the challenge, isn't it? We often have unspoken agreements of obligation in relationship for the purpose of survival. And that makes it impossible to see our own boundaries as well as others. So being good at accepting others' boundaries and honoring theirs, is an extension of honoring our own and vice versa, right? So start somewhere where we're honoring boundaries, right? Instead of creating these agreements out of obligation, right? This is something that is probably created in childhood. that's been modeled. So after you've done all the previous work with the other steps, with your self-image, right, and the lens you see life in, and balancing the give and take, it will be easier to accept another's boundary, right, as well as our own. If a friend stops valuing your wisdom, for example, could there be a bigger audience in need of your insight, making it too intense for this one person? Right? That's how we can redirect instead of feeling rejected, right? Instead of just making an attack on our worth or value, how are we being redirected here? We tend to see ourselves as powerless as opposed to having the tremendous impact and influence that we actually do have. So chances are in those moments where it feels like a personal attack on your worth and value, you're playing too small, right? You're limiting yourself too much. What you're asking for isn't enough, right? So learn to redirect there, right? And this helps enforce the differentiation between you and another. Because if we don't have good boundaries, we aren't good with boundaries of others. So how can you gracefully accept a no, right? Make it okay to receive a no. See it as a redirection. And in this way, you can see that for someone else. And when you say no, know that there's something better for them, right? Making peace with this, making peace that you're not the savior or rescuer for everybody, right? If you don't have it to give, you're not doing them a favor by doing it resentfully, right? Or with a grudge, begrudgingly. So make peace with this for yourself, that it's a redirection, and you can also redirect others. Step number 10, identify with the observer, the higher aspect of yourself, right? Divine essence of yourself, and then see it in others as well, right? If you know and you're in tune with the observer, a higher aspect of self, this is the part of you that knows what needs to be done, right? This is the healed inner child. This is the part of you that, and we're a bunch of moving parts, right? There's a bunch of moving parts that create the whole, but there's one aspect of self with a capital S that is in tune and attuned to our limitlessness, to our timelessness, right? So, and we tend to over-identify with just a few of these parts, right? We think that those are us, and we tend to show up as just a few variations, but we're a bunch of moving parts, right? A lot of them are just disowned or being protected and covered up, right? So if you're over-identifying with a few parts, the rest are going unacknowledged, and then they carry more power, right? Because they can become give us feelings of urgency, compulsion, right? It doesn't help to not acknowledge something or disown it. It actually gives it more power. So identifying with the observer gives you a broader perspective of these moving parts. Can we watch emotions come in and flow, right? Instead of over-identifying. Observe pain, right? Sometimes we prolong painful experiences because we're not really willing to look at it or feel it. And then it prolongs the suffering. But if we just observe it and are present to it, oftentimes it will just pass, it will dissipate. So where are those places you're resisting? Can you get into observer or higher self? And allow the observer, the aspect with the higher vantage point, to take the lead and show you how to heal. This is the part that carries the wisdom, right? It knows how to heal you, much like your body knows how to heal, right? If you get a cut, that wound will heal. Your body knows how to heal. Well, this higher aspect of self knows how to heal you emotionally, right? Heal you spiritually from the spiritual pain, heal you mentally. We just have to tune into it, right? So allow it to take the lead, show you how to heal, acknowledge your wholeness. This is key. Acknowledge your wholeness, right, of all these parts, all these moving parts, and therefore recognize others as whole instead of broken. And then empower them by believing in them, by seeing their wholeness, right? Because if we have this idea that we're surrounded by broken people, that's when we get into rescuer mode. And that's part of this wound. That's part of this wound. So knowing that we're whole and trusting that others are whole and have this higher aspect of themselves that knows how to heal, right? That's in tune with wisdom, that's in tune with a higher power, right? Then maybe we don't have to come out of ourselves to heal the world. We just put them in touch with theirs, in part by just modeling that, by not abandoning ourselves, right? So our empowerment promotes the empowerment of another. So this is why this work is so important, right? You're passing this on. And this also can heal codependent tendencies, these codependent patterns of seeing broken people everywhere. Give them an out. All right, I'll let them get away with bad behavior because I understand that's a wound, instead of holding them, right, to our standard and our boundary. Wholeness is the key here. Step 11, the final step. There's many more you can do, but here's the last step I'll give you. Anchor your healing and growth in by celebrating your progress and acknowledging your imperfections, right? You're a human being. Acknowledge that it's not going to be perfect and celebrate those small successes. Connect pleasure and joy to even the smallest success, right? The smallest amount of progress. Celebrate it. Where you said yes to yourself instead of betraying yourself. Celebrate that. Where you took stellar care of your needs, right? You put your needs first. Were you able to offer love, joy, and presence from a state of overflow? And you were in a generous state, so you weren't attached to the outcome of reciprocation, right? Celebrate that. And then through mindfulness, notice signs of neglect, fear, irritation, overwhelm, right? Those initial states that let you know there's something that you need. And then go to the inner child and ask, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need right now? Right? Get in touch with your own needs. This, and then follow through, because this will start building self-trust. Follow through. What do you need? Put a hand, maybe there's a, overactivity in the heart, right? As the inner child feels anxiety that it's going to be abandoned by you once again. What do you need? Or the stomach starts looking around the room, right? Our solar plexus, as a sensitive, will scan the room looking for signs of danger, threat. So put a hand there for comfort and say, what do you need? What do you need right now? What do you need to feel safe right now? I hear you, I see you, right? Acknowledging. You might also want to notice the tone of that question, right? At first, it might be irritated, like, what do you need? Who asked you, right? Chances are you're taking over for a caregiver. So the more gentle we can be, like, how would you talk to a child, right? This part of you is sensitive. It's a child. So you want to address it in that way, right? What do you need? Be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, and that will flow out into others, right? You'll radiate kindness when you're able to do so with yourself, and you'll be able to trust others when you trust yourself, right? It won't be about trusting blindly. It'll be trusting that others are human and they will make mistakes, right? Just like you, and accepting that, and knowing that other people have their own needs they're caring for as well, right? So getting in touch with that and beginning to understand when we're trustworthy to ourselves, who on the outside is trustworthy as well. So those are the 11 steps that I came up with to really anchor in this process and help build those energetic boundaries filters. This is the learning curve for the empath. Differentiation. What makes me separate from you, right? We're so connected and attuned to oneness, right? And there are reasons why this can be out of control in a wound and a pattern. I'll get into that maybe in another video. I hope this answered your question. To those who posed this question to me, thank you for doing so. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, please comment below or feel free to message me on Instagram, urban_empath, or info@urbanempath.com is my email. I'd be happy to answer more questions. And let me know. I hope this was practical enough for you to follow and thorough enough to give you really a much better understanding of how to approach this. And I'm wishing you much healing around this. And if you need support, please do reach out. We can have an individual session together. They can be very powerful, and I can really help guide you and facilitate this newfound sense of empowerment, right? And sense of self-actualization. That information will be in the description of this video. Comment with any useful information that you found here. Was anything enlightening to you? Was anything new information? Or did I say it in a different way that hit you differently, right? I'd love to know. And thank you for the energy exchange donations. That helps me keep going, and it makes it reciprocal, right? Exchange, give and take. And other social media platforms will be in the description, and my Amazon store if you want tools for an empath, or I have different idea lists there for the different types of videos and things like that. So check that out. And I'm wishing you much love, much joy, a sense of resourcefulness and gratitude, and more fulfilling relationships. You're a worthy empath. I'll see you in the next video.